So we just got back from watching the new Spider-Man movie, and we thought, just spur of the moment decision, why don't we just come back to my place and talk about it for a bit.
It was quite spur of the moment. It was at the very end of the credits.
So we'll give some initial impressions here at the beginning without any spoilers, just our kind of takeaway on how we thought about the movie, and then we'll move into a bit of a plot synopsis and go into more of the finer details of the movie, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and then we'll go from there. So, go quickly, by the way, I'm Cody.
Chris.
I'm John.
I'm Scott.
What did you think about the movie?
I guess I was thinking about this on the way here. I think I'd just say it was satisfying. I enjoyed... I wasn't disappointed, that's for sure. I enjoyed the movie.
And that's not something you could quite say for some of the other Marvel movies that have come out in Phase 4.
Absolutely. Like Eternals, I regret spending money to watch that movie.
John, what did you think about Spider-Man?
I'd say I liked about a good 95% of the movie. And the parts that I won't say that I liked, I was pretty neutral about. There was very few things that I didn't like about the movie. And I would even go along to say that the things that I didn't like would be nitpicking. Overall, I think it's a movie worth putting your money on.
Chris?
This movie made this boy into a man.
Did it?
I am so...
You're talking about yourself and Peter Parker in the movie.
Yeah, I am ecstatic for this movie. It was fantastic.
You're a pervert.
It's a little weird you're talking about boys like that, man.
And so I guess that leaves me. I really enjoyed the movie. I didn't quite feel that same spark I did when I watched Spider-Man Homecoming, just because I'm kind of, familiar with the characters and the universe a bit. I will say straight up, I've gotten a bit disenfranchised with the MCU lately, so I didn't see Eternals, I didn't see Shang-Chi, I didn't see Black Widow. Basically nothing after Endgame. But this is the one that pulled me back into the theater. Right when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, and there's a very good reason, which we'll get into when we get to the plot synopsis.
I would like to say that the reason he got pulled back in is we kind of forced him to go.
We did.
We 100% forced him to go.
Straight up by the 4 tickets.
Well, I wasn't putting up very much resistance for this one, I'll admit.
No, we kidnapped him.
Still made me pay for the ticket, though.
Yeah, that was weird that you gave us the money.
I didn't even ask for the money back.
So I really liked it. There were a couple things that I'm like, And there was one thing that I found very jarring in the second act.
I think Cody and I are going to have very similar opinions about this movie.
But overall, I very much enjoyed it. The premise for this movie, I don't think has really ever been tried before.
Yeah.
And so I'll give the MCU that 28, 30 plus movies in, they are doing original things. With that out of the way, let's get into kind of a spoiler warning and plot synopsis. So the beginning of this movie starts immediately where Far From Home left off, with J. Jonah Jameson revealing Spider-Man's identity to the world, and about the first 20 minutes of the movie are Spider-Man Peter Parker dealing with that. There is a lot of press coverage and, a very invasive reporting. They actually get arrested and
because
interrogated.
Of the allegations from
Mysterio. Yep.
Yeah.
So
trying to spin the story.
He's trying to spin the story to blame Peter Parker, and the government comes in, arrests him, Aunt May, Zendaya, and his friend
Ned.
Yeah.
MJ, Ned, and Happy, and that kind of gets tossed to the wayside after like the first 20 minutes, with a very cool cameo by Charlie Cox as
Daredevil.
Daredevil shows up
as Matt Murdock.
He does show up as Matt Murdock. Though he does have a very cool Daredevil moment.
He's a very good lawyer.
Where he grabs a rock that gets thrown through the window at them. Even though they're on like the 6th story.
Dude, they were up there. Whoever threw that, God, they have a fucking Tom Brady arm.
I bet it was fucking Tom Brady.
Oh, you think so?
I bet it was Tom Brady.
Tom Brady cameo
he's down in
confirmed right
Florida
here.
now, so who knows?
It's a good throw.
He drove all the way up to throw the brick.
Anyway, Matt Murdock says that they aren't going to get the charges to stick, but Peter and Aunt May can't really feel safe in their apartment, so they go move in with Happy. There's a bit of tension there because Aunt May and Happy have broken up, but he's still letting them live at his place because he's a simp.
But he moved. he was like on vacation or something. I don't know what the hell he was doing. He was moving on business.
I'm not exactly sure. They didn't elaborate too much on that. It seemed like that was just the apartment that he moved into, and I mean, in Far From Home, like he showed up and he helped out Spider-Man like go through that whole journey, but he didn't really do anything as far as I know. Like they didn't allude to anything.
And so after they get set up at Happy's place, they go into a bit of romance between MJ and Peter. They're in their senior year of high school, and so they're applying to colleges. None of them get into any colleges, basically because Peter Parker is bad press, and none of the college admissions boards want to deal with Peter or any of his friends. So guilt by association, which leads Peter to go to Doctor Strange, and he starts to cast this spell to make the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but Spider-Man keeps interrupting him because he's an idiot.
He's
apparently
just dumb, I guess, and he kept being like, "Hey,
he's a teenager.
I don't want MJ to forget me. I don't want Ned to forget me. I don't want all these other people to forget me." And he keeps adding different layers to the spell, and that causes it to fuck up, I guess.
I will say it was different from what the trailer... I mean, Marvel always does this thing with the trailers to make it seem like one thing's happening when really another is. It was interesting that Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme.
That was an interesting.
It's fun. I like that.
That was an interesting bit. Yeah. Basically, since Doctor Strange got snapped, there was no Sorcerer Supreme on Earth, and so Wong took the title, and I guess it's for life.
And also, he can open portals without doing the thing. He was carrying shit, and the portal was open, and he walked in.
Well, that's what the Sorcerer Supreme gets you. Yeah. Gets you a nice corner office and the ability to make portals. Doctor Strange fucks up the spell and breaks open the multiverse, and for
a brief moment,
for a reason, him casting the spell accidentally brought in people from other universes who knew who Spider-Man was, and because it was trying to make them forget who Spider-Man is, and it pulled some of those characters into the MCU universe.
And it seemed like it brought them in at their moment of death.
Or
they did seem to imply that.
Yeah.
But here's, we'll get into this later, but I watched Spider-Man 2 recently because of this movie. He didn't know that Spider-Man was Peter Parker until he was a good guy again.
Yeah. Well, so who knows what universe they were pulling him in from.
Yeah.
So after that, Spider-Man goes onto a bridge for a reason to go talk to a college admissions board member.
Oh, no, that's actually kind of funny. He goes to Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is like, "You could have just called." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I can just call. I'm Spider-Man. They'll listen to Spider-Man."
Yeah. So he tracks down this college admissions board member who is in New York for MIT, and he's like, "Hey, could you not screw over my friends just because they know me?" And at that point,
Dr. Octopus shows up.
Dr. Octopus showed up.
Played
by Alfred Molina. Now, that was a huge thing in the trailer, in the first trailer, and that's kind of what got me, wanting to go see this movie, because I'm like, he's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Doc Ock thinks that this MCU Peter Parker is Tobey Maguire Peter Parker, because he's from that universe, and they fight, and Spider-Man uses his nanobot suit to kind of disable and control Doc Ock's arms. And he's trying to figure out what to do with him when another villain shows up. The Green Goblin shows up and starts blowing up the bridge again. And right before Peter Parker gets blown up, Doctor Strange portals him back to the Sanctum, and he's like, "Hey, found this lizard in the sewer."
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be here either. It's the lizard from Amazing Spider-Man 1 with Andrew Garfield.
I believe it was the same actor.
I believe so, yeah. And so Doctor Strange tells Peter that all of these villains from other Marvel movies, other Spider-Man movies, are now in their universe, and that he should go round them up so that we can send them back. So he gets the gang together, and he goes and finds another villain, this time Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But also, he sees Sandman.
Sandman is also there.
Flittering around in the trees for some reason. Electro shows up, and they have some sort of magic web device that'll teleport them to this
holding cell,
this multiversal holding cell that they can't get out of until Doctor Strange can just to hold him there until Doctor Strange can put him back where they belong. And he goes to try and get Electro with the magic web, and then Sandman shows up to help him, because Sandman at this point, he is...
Sandman from Raimi's Spider-Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
It is apparently the one at the end of the movie that's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've never seen him die, right?
No, he did not die at the end of the movie. He sanded away.
Yeah.
So, Spider-Man captures both of those villains too, brings them back to the Sanctum.
Also, Jamie Foxx and whatever the hell that guy's name is. It is the same
I
guy.
cannot remember.
It was the
his name.
same guy. Yeah, Jamie Foxx returned as Electro. That's like the big thing about this movie is like, what an ensemble cast.
Indeed. Probably super expensive.
And like we mentioned, Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe was also back.
I was wondering if we were going to reach a point where Emma Stone and
I was wondering.
Kirsten Dunst?
Yeah, was going to show up.
Who knows? Anything's possible. Spoiler is some other familiar faces show up later. So, he gets them all back to the Sanctum. Doctor Strange gets back with a magical MacGuffin that says he's going to send them all back to the universes. After all of the villains say, like, hey, I showed up in this universe right before I was about to be killed by Spider-Man. Peter Parker, in MCU Peter Parker, is like, oh, that's weird. I don't really want to send them back to their universes just to die.
Oh, it's also important to mention, these people are from different time. They're from the same universe, but from different times in that universe.
Yeah.
For example, Doc Ock knew Norman Osborn. He's like, you died.
Right.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that he died.
Exactly.
And Sandman, who's from Spider-Man 3,
was
told
like,
him
hey, you died, bud.
Yeah.
And then Lizard, was told that he dies by Electro.
Mm-hmm.
And Electro was like, oh shit, I was about to die, I think.
You think Sandman just starts sweating a little bit? Like, wait.
What happens to me?
Hold on a second. Does it just start raining or something?
Do people turn into ash in your universe?
Oh shit.
So Spider-Man's like, hey, I don't like that. Maybe we can rehabilitate them. Very interesting angle. I thought this was going to be like a whole like redemption arc for all these villains. And so Spider-Man stops Doctor Strange from using this magical MacGuffin, and they get into a fight going through the mirror dimension.
Such a cool fight.
It was a really cool.
I will say this is again a note I'll elaborate on later. I think that was the only truly cool fight in the whole movie.
Yeah,
I could understand that.
Just because it's like so different.
That was the best thing about Doctor Strange, the movie.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this was almost like a small Doctor Strange sequel.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about a little bit at the end. And Spider-Man traps Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension.
I like that.
That was a cool move.
It was cool.
It was pretty neat.
I felt like he could have gotten out of it.
Absolutely.
He does take his sling ring. His sling
but
ring,
he's also
so he can't.
just like magic.
Yeah, that's true. And somebody else's. We'll get to that, which I wasn't too big of a fan of.
I enjoyed that, like, when everything was going on, I didn't care that he was saying the math equations out loud and whether they were right or not.
That was dumb.
I didn't care for that.
He's like, oh yeah, it's just fractal geometry. I know this.
I did like that he was able to simplify it, then out of nowhere he was just able to pretty much beat the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, I mean, he is smart, but Doctor Strange is also super smart.
Yeah, he is.
So he traps him.
The movie had to happen.
The movie had to happen, otherwise there's no movie. He traps him in the mirror dimension, and he goes and gets all of the villains that he has accrued, and he's like, hey, let's go back to Happy's place, and I'll try and rehabilitate
It's actually pretty silly. It's literally a scene of him just ferrying all of these supervillains into Happy's apartment. We see all of them on the Ring camera just go by.
And so Willem Dafoe, Norman Osborn, he's like playing turncoat, pretending to be Norman Osborn, while Green Goblin is kind of in the background, kind of a bipolar.
I don't even know if he was
personality.
pretending.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if
He seemed genuine when he was in that alley when he first showed up.
I really think his whole thing is that he does have like a bipolar thing.
It just has that hard coin flip to it.
Doc Ock is not interested. He's still being controlled by the arms.
I did like that you could see it before, like during the fight. And Spider-Man 2 originally is the eyes inside the claws would be red whenever he wasn't in control of it, like whenever he was actually acting evil. But at the end of the movie, they flickered back to white, and you saw that while he was in this.
I didn't notice that.
Did you guys notice how they kept like showing that weird hologram device that was controlling the things, and it kept like establishing it, like, hey, this exists.
I thought it was totally going to.
I thought someone's gonna happen.
I thought that was some sort of trigger.
And then I thought
like
for
somebody was
sure,
gonna grab
eventually, of course, we'll get to it. They're deciding we're going to solve all these supervillains' problems. And the first one on the list is Doc Ock. They fix his little microchip.
His inhibitor chip.
His inhibitor chip, you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And they fixed it. He's fine. I thought for sure he was faking it.
Oh, really?
Because they kept establishing that thing. But then that led to
there was a moment there, like the movie wanted me to believe this, but like after like a little bit, I totally thought they killed him.
Yeah.
When he installed the inhibitor chip, he just goes limp.
Just like
Doc Octavius.
I totally thought they killed him, and that's where like the moral dilemma of Spider-Man, like he still kills him.
Yeah.
Spider-Man still killed Doc Ock.
That would have been interesting.
But no, he's fine. Which there was a very touching moment where he regains his sanity. He's like, the voices aren't there. It's so quiet.
Yeah.
And like I almost got a little teary-eyed. And so him and Doc Ock and Norman are somewhat of scientists themselves.
Oh,
they bring
you
that.
bring it back.
They bring that.
He didn't say back to formula. I wish he had.
This movie was it was leaning into the memes hard.
Yeah,
Spider-Man is like the most meme superhero, and they were very lean into prolific. So Norman, Octavius, and Peter are building cures, they call them, for Jamie Foxx and Sandman and the Lizard.
They're just like chilling out. I guess.
Yep. Yeah. Jamie Foxx is like, I like the energy in this universe. You can tell like he's gonna reveal to still be bad, but Sandman is like, I just want to see my daughter.
It was hard to tell with Sandman, and then like this is nitpicking his character. This is part of the little bit that I didn't like was like his character seemed a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was about as interesting as he was in Spider-Man 3.
Absolutely.
And the Lizard didn't come up because he wanted to stay
He
in
stayed
the truck.
in the truck. I don't know.
There's a reason, because the movie had to happen.
I guess.
So they are they figure out how to cure Jamie Foxx of his electricity powers, which they bring up a lot. There was a lot of meta commentary in this movie too, where they just keep bringing up that Electro got his powers from a pad of electric eel. He's like, that's how it happens sometimes, I guess.
That conversation between the two of them, between him and Sandman, what's hilarious.
I fell into what did he call it? A super collider.
Yeah.
And
gotta worry about where you fall.
Yeah. You just gotta worry about where you fall, I guess.
It was a very funny movie.
It was funny, yes.
Oh, yeah.
So they're about to cure Jamie Foxx when Green Goblin personality shows up and convinces all of the supervillains, except Doc Ock, that they should continue being supervillains and that they can't be cured, which leads to a big fight between Green Goblin and Spider-Man. Electro and Sandman just kind of float away.
Yeah, Sandman literally floats away, and it's very strange.
Well, the reason he's always sand, and so you couldn't tell like a lot of his facial expression. He just also decides to be evil. Like he doesn't say anything. And the reason that the Lizard is down in the truck is because J. Jonah Jameson was trailing Peter and Aunt May to get the big scoop, and he hears Jameson outside saying, we need to get cops here, we need to get reporters or whatever, and he thinks that Peter Parker is going to betray them and turn them into the police, so he decides to be evil too and runs away. Then we get to this fight with Peter Parker and Green Goblin. They fight all through Hogan's apartment building.
That was so cool.
It was a really good scene. Aunt May is there, and she stabs just when Norman Osborn is about to kill Peter, she stabs him with the antidote to his Green Goblin serum. Didn't work, apparently.
Yeah, I guess.
And big spoiler, Green Goblin kills Aunt May with his glider. And there was a very emotional scene where
you finally hear Tom Holland's Spider-Man get the line that we kind of all just assumed had already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With great power comes great responsibility.
She says it. And then she dies.
It was very sad.
It was.
Oh,
I teared up. It was.
And they played with your heart, like, not to get too deep into it, man, but like she gets up and adrenaline is a hell of a drug, I guess, because she's like walking around being motherly and everything, and then just stops.
Guess I'll die now.
I guess I'll die now.
Yeah.
Must have been some sort of internal hemorrhage.
It's the fate of all Aunt May's and Uncle Ben's is that as soon as they give the line, they have to die.
Yep. Constants and variables, I guess.
Yeah.
police show up, start shooting at Spider-Man because he's not complying.
He got hit, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he got shot. Doesn't come up.
Didn't matter.
And he goes and sulks because his only parental figure in his life just got killed, and he was indirectly but kind of directly responsible for.
He was responsible.
Also, this gets another payoff from something that we didn't really touch on because it doesn't really matter that much. So they kind of Scooby-Doo gang this, like they say in the trailer, where Zendaya, MJ and Ned show up to help Peter with these supervillains and their issues.
Yep.
And during the fight, he of course took the Spider-Man took the sling ring from Doctor Strange. He gave it to Ned, and apparently Ned's magic.
Mm-hmm.
Ned was just able to open up portals on accident when he was getting frustrated.
I was very frustrated with that because, like, in Doctor Strange, they established that he was there at the temple.
He was having a hard time doing it.
He was there for like months.
Yeah,
but I guess they just needed the movie to happen.
I guess,
and so Ned can make portals.
And so, like Cody said, Spider-Man's sulking on top of the high school. And they don't know where he is. So Ned's like, "Man, I wish I could see Peter," while he's holding that sling ring, and a bit of a portal starts. So it's like, oh shit, let's do that again. I wish I could see Peter. Eventually, a portal opens, and we see a figure
dressed as Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. And I'm sure you can see what's going to happen. The figure comes through the portal, and it's Andrew Garfield. Literally, Peter Parker from the Amazing Spider-Man films. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people expected that to happen.
And then there is some confusion where they're like, "You're not Peter Parker," and he's like, "Yes, I am
That
Peter
was a
Parker."
pretty funny scene.
That's like half of the humor in the movie, and it's not. It doesn't get old.
Yeah.
I didn't think it got old.
I wasn't annoyed, and I was expecting to be annoyed.
Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of scene where he's trying to prove to them that he's Spider-Man.
Roll around on the ceiling, maybe.
He just reaches up. He's just kind of hanging there on his fingertips. He's like, "No, not good enough." Throws the bread at him like twice.
He keeps throwing it.
Stop throwing the bread at me.
You know, they call back to the tinkle line, the Peter tinkle.
Yeah, do you not have the tingle? I have the tingle. It doesn't work with bread, though.
Andrew Garfield, he hit my sense of comedy.
He
pretty
was
spot on.
Better in this than in Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep. Well, like you were saying, Scott, he was like the forgotten middle child in those movies, and kind of in this movie, they really play it up.
Yep.
Which we'll
very
get into.
meta.
Very meta.
So as quickly as we met Andrew Garfield, they try it again, and then we get Tobey Maguire stepping into frame.
And people clapped.
Yeah.
People clapped because they saw things they knew.
They clapped. They cheered for both of them. They were louder cheer for Tobey Maguire.
Yep.
But
forgotten middle.
I was surprised Garfield.
Garfield. The crowd got a little bit up there for Garfield, but he stepped in his very typical Peter fashion of, "Hey, I just saw this portal and it's gone now. It's gone now. Sorry."
He also was just dressed like a guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He looks so old.
He looks so old, and if I had to complain about somebody's acting in this movie, it was Tobey Maguire's.
Yeah.
Like, he did not look like he cared to be there. He looked so haggard and old. And especially that first scene when they first meet him, he just seems so flat. Confused, but not...
Not in like I'm confused. The portal, it was like confused.
He wasn't charismatic or anything.
He wasn't.
It's like somebody let the old man out of the home, and he
wandered on set.
Yeah, he doesn't know where he is.
It's interesting because when they talked about it, like it sounded like time had gone by since Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, absolutely. He is an old. I think he is supposed to be an old man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He is Tobey Maguire's age Spider-Man.
Yeah. Same with Andrew Garfield. They both they both bring up
I
stuff.
forgot about that. That was actually kind of dark. We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the next scene. So they figure out where Spider-Man is, and MJ, Ned, Peter Parker, we'll call him Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, just to make it easy. They go find Spider-Man, console him, and, like, Tom Holland is in a dark place because Aunt May just died. Real quick. And Aunt May's the one that convinced him to try and rehabilitate the villains. And so that's why they were there trying to help them, was Aunt May. And she tells him, "No, you still did the right thing, even though I am dead now." And he doesn't see it that way. He wants to go kill all of these villains. And then you get a very, like Scott said, a very dark scene.
Well, the three spider people, individuals, they bond over their loss, and Andrew starts talking about how after in Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, of course, Gwen Stacy dies. He talks about how after that happened, he stopped pulling punches, is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's heavily implying that he started murdering people.
Do you think he killed Rhino at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Well, that's the thing. At the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's like they abandoned that, apparently. I guess that's fine. Those movies suck shit. But, like, he was kind of, oh, man, I'm going to use this loss just like I did Uncle Ben's. But now he's the Punisher with Spider-Man powers.
The point is,
he becomes Ronin.
Whoa, Hawkeye spoilers. I don't know. That's not Hawkeye
spoilers.
Point is, it worked in the movie.
It did.
It worked in this movie where you're like, oh, this is not happy-go-lucky Spider-Man. This is Dark Knight Spider-Man.
I had a moment where I was like, oh.
That was the moment that I started kind of taking Andrew Garfield serious as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I wish they had done a thing where he seemed fine. I wish they had done a thing where he was still that way and Tom Holland was the, like, bit of pureness and goodness that he needed to be a good Spider-Man again.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just like a good person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Tobey Maguire gets a very similar view, or a reveal, where he says, I tracked down the man that killed my uncle, and I wanted him dead, and I got my wish, and it didn't help.
Yeah.
And so they try and convince Tom Holland not to.
We skimmed over that too. Tom Holland Spider-Man straight up says, "I want to kill Green Goblin."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they're like, let's figure out these cures. So you have.
They did bond over that. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yep.
They finished the line for him, and like that's kind of like when he had his eyes opened for the first time since Aunt May died. Which I would also like to point out the scene where she gets fucking hit.
I thought she was dead there.
So I thought she was gone.
Like when she stood up, I'm like, oh, I guess she's okay.
It was a bit. It felt cheap.
Yeah.
But then she did die.
Yep.
I guess that she just needed to say some. She needed to say the line.
Yep.
Adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Yep. So Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland go back to finding the cures for the villains. There's some funny banter in the lab. That scene went on a little long, but like it didn't it went long. But I'm like, oh, I'm still enjoying myself.
I felt good about it.
That hit towards that Amazing Spider-Man thing that they did, where like him, Andrew Garfield, and I can't remember the name of the girl who plays Emma Stone.
Yeah.
Where like their scenes would always go on like 10, 20, 30 seconds too long. Like it really felt like they were like paying some sort of homage to that, but it didn't feel like vomit worthy.
Yeah. Also, Andrew Garfield had this like
on Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, that's a lot of my notes are just that.
Yeah.
So Andrew Garfield had this thing where obviously Gwen Stacy dies. His MJ, quote unquote, died. And like this obviously gave him some sort of like I don't even know what complex, yeah. And that was interesting. I wish that it just kind of got resolved.
They just kind of like paid it off at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Sorry. The last thing I would like to point out for that scene is even though it did kind of go along too much, that was the only way that I feel like they could represent the Spider-Mans pointing at Spider-Mans without it being dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
Like it felt like fan service.
It really did.
There was a lot of fan service in this movie.
When Maguire and Garfield like tried to go to the same lab area, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
I didn't even notice that.
That was in the background as Tom was.
Oh, and Ned was pretty good in that scene.
Ned, dude, Ned stole a lot of the show for me. He was Comedy Central for me.
And so they like have like a lot of banter about what it was like to be Spider-Man. Their different powers. They bring up Tobey Maguire's like
he can make
his natural webbing.
Yeah,
they're so jealous.
Yeah, they bring it up twice.
I don't know if they were. I think they were just curious.
So they all the Spider people go to the Statue of Liberty with their cures and try to lure all of the villains there. They have some more Spider-Man banter, which is great.
It was amazing.
They treat each other like brothers. It's cute as fuck.
Yeah.
It really was adorable.
They bonded so, like, they've known each other for a couple of hours.
But to be fair, they're all literally the same person.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. There's a very funny line where Andrew Garfield is like, man, sometimes I just feel so insecure about myself. Like, I'm not worth it.
Like, you guys are great. You guys are amazing. And then they start trying to build him up.
No, you're amazing.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
That's literally...
You say it. You say it.
And the thing is, like, the spider people aren't talking to each other. They're talking to the audience, saying, no, your movies were good. Amazing Spider-Man wasn't bad.
Oh, man.
Dude, the whole audience was laughing.
It was very meta.
God.
And so eventually the villains show back up. Electro is super powered because he found...
He's got the arc reactor.
He got an arc reactor off of Tobey Maguire. Sandman shows up. Lizard shows up.
I really thought that when the nanotech was going on to Doc Ock, that there was going to be one last hint of Tony Stark creating all his villains, where, like, they were all going to have ways of being supercharged by, like, some sort of Stark technology.
That'd be interesting. Where
Where
did he get that glider?
He must have brought it through with him.
Oh, yeah, he did fly in.
Yeah.
Never mind.
They don't really explain how that works.
Yeah.
The villains show up. The Spider-Men are trying to fight them. They're getting in each other's way. They're not fighting as a team. And so they eventually have a huddle where the villains oblige them.
And they assign numbers to each spider person.
Yeah.
And they figure out how to fight as a team, which I thought, like, after that, them web swinging around, I thought that was awesome. They were swinging off each other and everything.
They even
That
joked
was pretty cool.
Really cool.
They even joked about, like, how none of them had to work as a team ever.
That's true.
Yeah,
Right.
like Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield didn't have the Avengers, obviously.
So
They don't even know what the fuck the Avengers are.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's like, oh yeah, I was part of the Avengers. I know I work as a team. And Tobey Maguire's like, oh, the Avengers. That's great, the Avengers. What's the Avengers?
Were you in a band?
And so that was another big contrast between them. We played for laughs and it was very funny.
Yeah.
So they learn to fight as a team.
Oh, Ned can't close portals, but he can open them.
Yep.
So Reptile's about to go eat their fucking asses.
Yep. So they run through the portal. They're now the Statue of Liberty.
Every time.
And they eventually start to work as a team. They pick off Electro and Sandman and Lizard one by one. Which, by the way, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are wearing their spider suits, which I thought was awesome.
I love that.
And they get trapped, and Doc Ock appears again because he's good and starts helping them. And so they're able to subdue the other three. And then Green Goblin shows up and starts antagonizing them. There's a point where MJ falls off the Statue of Liberty, and you think Tom Holland is going to go rescue her, but Green Goblin attacks him, and Andrew Garfield gets his redemption where he saves MJ from falling, and he starts crying right there.
Because he appropriately grabbed her instead of just like...
Instead of using a web hand.
He learned. He learned. And he was just like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, are you okay?
Yeah, are you okay?
And he's like, just silently nodding his head.
At some point, Doctor Strange shows back up, too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Ned opened up that portal and Doctor Strange just walked in.
Yep. And what was... what did he do?
The multiverse was like breaking in or something, and all of the people from all of the infinite different universes were going to come in who knew Peter Parker.
Because Green Goblin blew up the magical MacGuffin and released the botched spell.
Yeah.
And so the multiverse is collapsing, and Doctor Strange is trying to stop that from happening. Repair it, yeah. But he's having trouble doing it. And Tom Holland and Green Goblin have a big fight, and Tom Holland is legitimately trying to kill Green Goblin.
He's beating the fucking shit out of Green Goblin.
And he's about to do it. He's about to kill him with his own glider, and he's like so like hurt. He's like limping along with his glider. It was like really real and raw. Yeah. And he tries to stab him when Tobey Maguire shows up and stops him. And he's like, "You are who you choose to be."
Yeah, he says some shit like that.
I don't even know if he says anything, but it's a very Iron Giant moment.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland's like, "You're right," and then Green Goblin stabs Tobey Maguire. And
they inject Andrew Garfield hucks the cure for Green Goblin to Tom Holland. Tom Holland puts it in him
and saves him.
Yep. Tobey Maguire didn't die. Spoiler alert.
Yep. And it was a really good bait and switch. Yep. I'll give it that.
Oh, they even joked about it.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland are caressing his dying body, and he's like, "Are you gonna be okay?" And Tobey Maguire's like, "Oh, I've been stabbed lots of times. I'll be okay."
You're in a lot of pain.
Yeah,
I am.
So Doctor Strange can't control the spell and all of the different Spider-Men and Spider-Villains from collapsing into this universe. So Tom Holland makes the very somber decision to say, well, if they're coming here because they know that I'm Spider-Man. So if nobody knows that I'm Spider-Man...
Nobody knows that Peter Parker exists.
If nobody knows that Peter Parker exists, then they will stop trying to collapse the multiverse. And Doctor Strange's like, yeah, that'll work. They kind of hand wave it a bit.
Yeah.
And so he's like, do it. And Doctor Strange is like...
They have a really nice goodbye.
They had a very hot-cold relationship in this movie, where Doctor Strange was kind of buddy-buddy with him at the beginning because they saved the world together, and then Spider-Man starts doing dumb things, and he gets really angry at them. But by the end, he's like, that's some serious chops, kid. That's deep shit that you're just willing to erase yourself from everybody's memory.
You can call me Steven.
Yep.
No.
Still weird.
You know what?
There was a lot of crying in this movie.
There was.
That's like a rules of 10 instead of the rules of 3.
Because
it just happened so many fucking times.
So Doctor Strange starts casting that spell. He's like, say your goodbyes. He says goodbye to Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. He says goodbye to MJ and Ned. More crying. Doesn't say goodbye to Aunt May because she's dead.
She's dead, of course.
And then the spell goes through. The multiverse doesn't collapse. And then the last 10 minutes are Tom Holland trying to reconcile the fact that he is truly alone in the world. Not just Aunt May is gone, but nobody knows him. So he gets his apartment and he starts moving on.
Well, he goes to visit MJ and Ned. And this is the moment where I came the closest to feeling something. He goes up to MJ and he's like, They had planned in their goodbye. I'll just tell you. I'll convince you somehow. And he goes up to her. She's forgotten who he is. And I think part of it is he sees that they're just normal people. They aren't broken wrecks without him. So he's like, well, shit. I'm just gonna let him live then.
Yeah. It seems to imply that they make it into MIT.
Yep.
And yeah, he starts a new chapter of his life.
I'm glad they didn't just out. I'm glad it's not oh no, now that Peter's gone, Ned and MJ are dating.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
But at the same time, it's cool that they're still friends.
They were also cool with Ned being the third wheel. I don't know if he was just oblivious or if I was reading it wrong, but they were yeah, we'll all live together when we get to college.
The basement gimp.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And so that's the movie. We had a mid-credit scene. Where
what was it?
Oh, what was the mid-credit scene?
I don't even remember what the mid-credit scene was anymore. It was the Venom.
It was Venom. Yeah.
Oh wait, shit. Also, Tom Holland made a new suit.
Yeah,
it's all red and blue. It's like a classic Spider-Man suit.
He had to sew it himself.
The mid-credit scene is very funny, where Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock is somewhere in Mexico trying to figure out what's going on in the MCU. A callback to the end credit scene in Venom: There Will Be Carnage, where we apparently see him being pulled into their universe by Doctor Strange's spell.
I'm not even sure how that happened.
I love because it's supposed to only fool people that know who Peter Parker is.
Apparently, there's implications. That Spider-Man exists in the Venom universe.
And it ripped him in a post-credit scene of his own movie just to rip him out of a post-credit scene.
He disappeared just like all the other characters did when Doctor Strange did the spell. But then, oh no, we see a little dollop of Venom juice start crawling away. Then the after-credit scene ends. But then we get an after-credits trailer.
Yeah, that was odd.
Yeah.
They just showed a trailer for Doctor Strange 2. Well, that's the plot synopsis of the movie. Chris, real quick, some praise you'd like to lop on?
I thought none of the dialogue in the movie seemed like it didn't fit, or if
it flowed.
Yes, it flowed very nicely. It felt very organic. It felt when Ned was a third wheel, we felt that, and when
he didn't.
Chris might have felt that.
I am the Ned of our group.
The fourth wheel.
When Tom and MJ are like having their moments, you feel like they're having a moment and not like, oh, it's Zendaya and Tom Holland acting. I felt very much so. My suspension of disbelief was off the wall. Like I felt very into the movie.
I could tell. I was sitting next to him.
I was sitting on the edge by some guy that I didn't know that smelled nice. And I could see all of Chris's motions. I think Cody said to me like 3 different times, "Oh, he said the line."
like I said, there's very memey jokes in this very memey movie.
There was a lot of fan service, and there was a lot of meme fan service. Like, I don't think they took this movie too seriously, while at the same time like making it a good movie.
There was some heavy stuff in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
The emotional roller coaster that Tom Holland goes through in this movie is just...
From having his identity outed to fighting with Doctor Strange, to trying to rehabilitate these people that Spider-Man kills, to them killing Aunt May, to him wanting revenge and getting redemption, to him basically erasing himself from the world. He suffered a lot. But that is kind of like Spider-Man's shtick.
Yeah.
Is that he's just a big bag of trauma. He's almost a sociopath or a psychopath in that regard, and the only thing that keeps him good is his guilt over his uncle, now aunt's death.
I've talked about this, since ever. I am a huge Marvel fan. As a kid, I grew up with Marvel, and Spider-Man really hit with me as a kid, especially. He's not my favorite or anything, but as a kid, he hit with me because, as I'm sure a lot of kids felt the same, he's Spider-Man, he's a superhero, that's cool and everything, but he's just like a guy. Mm-hmm. He still has, problems that I have, and I love that.
So, it wasn't a perfect movie. What kind of criticisms do we have about this? Scott, what do you have to say?
Unfortunately, the biggest criticism I have is just that the only really good... Most of the criticism I have is criticism about Amazing Spider-Man 2. And...
Oh, no.
Well...
We're not reviewing that movie.
It's just that there was a lot of unearned shit. Electro didn't earn what his arc in this movie. He was just some fucking electric guy in the movie. But I'm supposed to believe he had some sort of journey he went on. And he was just, okay, I'm cured now. I guess that's good.
Right. Well, I mean, he was definitely cured of his powers. I don't know if... I don't know. They kind of leave that
I didn't get the impression his powers were the problem. His superior or his inferiority complex was the problem. The fact that he felt like a nothing in the movie was the problem.
Same thing with Dr. Connors. He still doesn't have an arm.
Yeah.
There's still that problem with him. Maybe they learned that crime does not pay.
Oh my goodness, you're right. But if I'm focusing just on this movie, I think the biggest critique I can give is that the only truly effective action scene, for me at least, was when he fought Doctor Strange. Everything else was just kind of Spider-Man doing Spider-Man.
I feel like people are going to analyze his fight with Doctor Strange over and over and over again and find all the cool little things that happen. I knew it was going to be a good fight from the moment that Doctor Strange just opened a portal where he was swinging the web, and he fucking caught himself with it.
And then he learns it. He learns it. He adapts later in the movie.
The two portals hitting each other. That was fucking awesome.
And it broke the mirror dimension. Oh, there was so much shit that was happening in that. If I had to critique it, I've already kind of opened up on a little bit with Sandman, but it felt like a lot of the villains were just bad guys to be bad guys. When they started to offer solutions, they just said, no.
Yeah.
And Sandman was definitely just there to pad out the roster.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I remember I got to this point in the movie, and I was counting. I'm like, 5.
I was thinking that too.
What
Sinister
about
Six.
I mean, Scorpion's been established.
Scorpion's established. Vulture is in this universe.
I was expecting somebody to show up and then somebody to say something.
Yep.
But then
So,
I'm kind of glad.
so what
that
are
didn't
we?
happen.
Like a
It's
Sinister Six?
Yeah. This is Vulture.
man.
He's an old fuck with wings.
I really thought that's what Venom was gonna be in this.
Yeah.
It was
Like
gonna
I'm
be
just kind of
Topher
like
Grace.
waiting.
Yeah. Oh
I'm
my
just kind of waiting.
God. If Topher Grace had shown up. Oh my
dude.
goodness. He
Chris,
also died. Isn't that fun?
he did. Yeah. He didn't get in this movie, though. Maybe he didn't want to come back. Chris, what did you not care for?
I think there are certain aspects of the movie that are shoehorned in.
Go ahead.
I
I mean, it is a Marvel movie.
Sure.
Well, yes, but what I mean by that is that they could have developed Sandman in there a little more than just being like,
they pretty much copy pasted him.
here's Electro, and Sand's moving. Oh, it's Sandman. Or like, Peter, Andrew.
I was actually super fucking confused
And,
when
like-
the sand showed up because I'm like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. Did his suit just do that? What the shit just happened? Oh, Sandman exists.
And then Peter Maguire's here.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, yes, that is awesome, and I loved it. And
You adored it.
but
so
like it just felt like it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't process what was going on. Please give me some time to digest. Show me them doing things before shoving them all together. That's my critique of it.
much. I'm surprised you got any.
I know, right?
Great job, Chris.
I am known as the person that always loves the movie.
Indeed.
I don't hate anything.
Well, I definitely have things to praise about this movie. I really like the cinematography.
Mhm.
There were definitely the way certain scenes were shot where I like noticed it,
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, that's like artistic.
Yeah, that's like a good shot.
Shifts the beret.
I will say as well, I was kind of dreading seeing Willem Dafoe's face.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what they were doing. I think I've seen pictures of Alfred Molina nowadays. He looks older.
Yeah.
And they must have been doing some great de-aging.
It was black magic,
Yep.
I believe.
Yeah.
That was
They sacrificed at least 100 babies.
because it was just Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
Yep. And that movie came out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, same
that was-
thing pretty much with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
he
I
looked
was
great.
dreading seeing Willem Dafoe, but then you just full blast see his face, the stupid grin.
He was so Green Goblin.
It was, and I love the costume that it was very comic booky. He had the purple hood.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
fucking
man.
loved it.
He looked so much better without the mask and having the
Yeah,
hood.
Mhm.
he breaks his mask basically immediately in this movie.
I guess they didn't have enough money in the budget to DH Tobey Maguire, though.
I was
He was
just about
looking
to bring
haggard.
that up.
A couple of nitpicks. One nitpick and then one very serious problem I had with the movie. When Doctor Strange and Tom Holland are fighting, he astral projects
yeah.
Tom Holland out of his body, and because Tom Holland is trying to steal the magical MacGuffin. I don't remember what it was called. It was some nonsense language.
It's something to store the broken spell.
Yeah,
Yep.
some cube.
And Doctor Strange is trying to get the MacGuffin out of his body's hand, and his body is moving around, and he's like, you shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, but I am. And never addressed.
I think I know why.
It
I
must
think it's
just
the
be
spider
sense.
senses. That's the
It
only
just
thing I
has
can
to be
think
that.
of.
Oh, I never thought of
He's in the nano suit at that time.
And the nanobites are doing it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Really? You think
Because
so?
I think he still has the AI of the suit.
Mhm.
And so...
It didn't talk.
It didn't talk, but, I mean, it
No,
could
he
have still
didn't have the
probably
nano
moved it.
suit. He didn't have the nano suit. He was still wearing his suit that he was wearing when he fought Electro and Sandman.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's
suit.
right.
His Far From
The
Home
duct
suit.
I love that he
Well,
just
that
taped the phone
Yeah.
to it so his friends could see.
What was up with that suit?
I don't know.
That one did
It looked
have an
like
AI
black
in
and
it, though.
green.
Yeah.
I don't think it
I
is.
because I remember seeing that
'Cause
in the
that's
trailer
the
and being like,
thing.
is that like a Wakanda suit? I don't know
It
what's
looked
going on with it.
really weird.
That's the one Tony Stark made for him before he made the Iron Spider suit. And that one did have an AI.
Oh, he named it Karen. That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was the suit. Regardless, I'm gonna say it was Spidey sense.
Okay,
I think it was just spiders.
I'll buy it.
It was
'Cause
silly.
They bring it up
exactly.
and then never bring it up again. Maybe it'll be brought up in Doctor Strange too. I
doubt it.
I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody make Doctor Strange look like an idiot other than that moment.
Yeah.
Other than Doctor Strange himself.
Or the Ancient One.
Oh, it's funny that you bring up the suits. Like I said earlier, I thought it was great that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were wearing their suits. For like the second half of the movie, the suit that Tom Holland is wearing looks just disgusting.
Yeah.
Because he's wearing half of the Iron Spider suit, but they didn't use the CGA like in the rest of the movies, and so he's just wearing like a physical suit, and it just looks gross.
Well, that's what happened. He was wearing like a normal suit, right? He didn't have the nanobite suit, but then he got the nanobots from Doc Ock's arms.
But only like his torso.
Yeah, and it like glommed onto him, so we had like a gold spider thing going on.
It just looked like a weird cloth rubber suit, not like...
Yeah, it looked really weird. Does it have like the golden spider emblem kind of thing going on?
But my biggest problem with the movie, and it really took me out of it, was... so Green Goblin kills Aunt May. They have that very heart-wrenching scene where she dies, and then he runs away in distraught. And then the next scene is... Ned and MJ and Andrew Garfield just goofing around in Ned's mom's house.
Oh yeah, that's
and it was just like such a bad tonal shift. It's like whiplash is a great way to describe it. And I totally thought like the best way to do this is to play the rest of the movie completely straight. After such an emotional linchpin. But no, the next scene we're just palling around and goofing, and it really, to me at least, stunted that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that.
I can absolutely see that.
So,
this is actually a bit of a nitpick. This is less of a nitpick and more just like, I wonder how this works.
This is the Amorphous Rant.
Does the spell erase like his bank data? What about his social security?
It seemed to imply at the end that he didn't finish high school.
Does he not exist?
I think so, because he didn't go to school. He has his GED stuff, and he's preparing for that.
Yeah.
So he dropped out. I guess he didn't have any admissions. Does he have a social security number? How did he get that lease for the apartment? He doesn't have credit.
Yeah, the only other thing that I wanted to critique was like how easily they were just like, oh, and now we have cures for everybody.
Yeah.
Like it was like a 15-minute, like just... Like, the one for Doc Ock kind of made sense. They saw the neural interface. To me, that was just like...
It was like something going on there.
Yeah, to me, it's like, oh, we can kind of answer this one. Everybody else is just throw to the wind and hope nobody asks questions.
They just injected him with ooze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well...
Some goo.
Because he injected himself with ooze. He created his own super soldier serum in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
I have seen that movie.
And so it was probably just, and so it was probably just like a thing that neutralized it. Yeah, anti-ooze.
They I don't have any idea what they did for Sandman. Again, he was given as much characterization and thought as he was in Spider-Man 3.
They kind of tried to explain Electro by like taking the majority of the electricity out of him. But I'm like, okay. Like,
he like deconstituted. He is not a man anymore.
Right.
He is electricity.
Yeah.
They figured it out.
I guess.
I liked Jamie Foxx's performance in this. Isn't he, like, supposed to also be a genius scientist? He was working at Oscorp, wasn't he?
He was not necessarily a genius, but he was like a... I got the impression in the movie that he was like a grunt.
I remembered him as like some sort of janitor.
He was kind of... He was working... Was there a scene of him? I think there was a scene of him with a mop, actually.
I remember him as some sort of janitor.
I did watch Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, sorry guys, party foul. I just kicked the table.
Oops.
Sorry.
I thought he was like a scientist in that movie. That's why it was...
I don't think he was.
He felt a little too suave and a bit too street
for that perception
in my mind.
I kind of was hoping that his teeth gap would come back from the Amazing Spider-Man.
I want a clip of that reversed of his teeth gap
They joke about that when they're all trapped in the cells. Lizard's like, used to be butt ugly.
Used to be an ugly piece of shit. What happened to you? You look like awesome, man. You're looking great. I was kind of hoping that that Doctor Strange would be fallible. That like something about the way Electro works, like because I saw those lights flickering when he first got put in the cell. I thought maybe he'd just like zip out and be like, "What the fuck? See ya."
Yeah. Well, it didn't work for Sandman.
I guess.
Butt of the joke again.
Oh, that fucking Roblox oof noise that he made. That was great.
Well, that's plenty of us talking about this movie.
Yeah.
Overall, I think we all enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
It's probably the best Marvel movie that's come out in a long time. It's the most emotional, and just seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland all playing Spider-Man and then playing off each other, it's as good as it sounds on paper.
Yeah.
I really feel like it did Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man a little bit of justice.
Oh, yeah.
It made me retroactively think those were good movies.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And I'll never go back and watch them to critique that thought.
To confirm, but...
You just get stuck in an endless loop where you watch this movie and you're like, you know what? Maybe those were good movies. And you go back and watch the first 5 Spider-Man movies. You're like, wow.
Like just...
And then you get back to No Way Home and you're like, well, fuck. Maybe I'm just remembering
Maybe I was
wrong.
We talked about this a little bit before we watched the movie. This is like a seminal film for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
This is like setting the tone for the rest of Marvel. And I think I'm pleased. I'm interested in the rest.
I mean, they basically, like, it started with Spider-Man trying to retcon how Spider-Man 2 ended.
Yeah.
And he basically succeeded.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting how he is going to Spider-Man by himself now.
Yeah.
You know, I could probably handle 10 more Immortals if I get... Yes.
He's already forgotten what it was
10
called.
more.
So forgettable.
I can withstand 10 more Eternals from now till the next Spider-Man No Way Home.
Now, do you
and one of them's Black Knight.
Do you mean just Eternals quality movies?
Yeah,
or do you need 10 Eternals
Yeah,
sequels?
no, we need 10 more Eternals, the characters.
They already introduced 10.
I need 10 more Eternals movies, but it's about each individual Eternal and where they're at now. I guess in conclusion, and I'm kind of curious, like, where just all of the Marvel universe is going now.
Bring us home, sir.
Because in the end, they kind of saved the multiverse. Everybody disappeared, went back to their home area. But you saw him swinging around New York. It was Christmas time. You see the same areas that you see in one of the Hawkeye episodes.
Shot with an arrow.
Like,
it's Spider-Man!
But, like, you know, with Eternals, like, they fucking opened the gates for the Celestials or whatever the fuck those things were.
By comparison, this seemed like a very small movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even
though it's a multiversal
Even
movie.
though the multiverse was collapsing, it's like all set in New York. It's very grounded.
And one scene in Mexico.
Certainly compared to Eternals.
The end credit scene was with Tom Hardy was in Mexico. Yeah.
But the stakes felt so high.
You talking T-Bone?
Dude.
Even though they
New
were...
York Strip?
Fuck you.
I can't get over the fact that Sony was like, okay, you guys can have Venom for a movie. And Marvel's like,
we're taking him.
Nah. He's like, you can have Tom Hardy and Venom. They're like, can you listen, here's the receipt, you can have Tom Hardy back, just needed a drop of Venom.
Like, give me that goo, Sony!
Well, that sounds like a perfect way to end this. I'd say we'd all recommend you go see this movie.
I would rate this a 9.5 out of 10. It has some serious energy.
Oh, nice. We're giving ratings now? Fuck your ratings. The video is over!